It's so easy to feel overwhelmed these days just trying to keep up with everything that's changing,
Absolutely.
especially when you're dealing with something as complex as, the U.S. H-1B visa process.
Right.
So today we're going to really zero in on some recent shifts that have happened in the H-1B lottery
Okay.
and also some really important updates to the forms that everyone needs to be aware of.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, too, because the material we're looking at is really kind of geared towards immigration attorneys. But
Right.
a lot of the core stuff about what's changing and how to actually navigate the system,
Yeah.
it's valuable for anyone who's involved.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's a company that's trying to, sponsor these visas or someone who's hoping to get one or even just people trying to understand the system better.
Totally. And that's what we want to do in this deep dive today is
Wow.
really just extract the essential information about these changes
Yeah.
so that, anyone listening can walk away with a clear understanding of what's new, what it means for them without getting bogged down in the weeds.
Exactly.
So let's just jump right into it with the H-1B lottery.
Okay.
Because it's not just a set it and forget it system, right?
No, not at all. And I think what's fascinating here is just how often the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services is making adjustments to the H-1B lottery. It's
Right.
really a constantly evolving process.
So how often are we talking about here? Are these big sweeping changes that happen every few years, or is it more like little tweaks here and there?
Well, it can be both, actually. Sometimes you'll see significant overhauls to the system, but even the smaller tweaks can have a big impact.
Okay, so for the attorneys who are deep in the weeds of this stuff,
Yeah.
what are some of the biggest hurdles that you're seeing them face in trying to just keep up with all these constant changes?
I think one of the main challenges is just this need for continuous learning and adaptation.
Right.
You can't just rely on what you knew a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Because even seemingly small tweaks to the selection process or the eligibility criteria can have huge ramifications down the line.
Right.
So for example, if an attorney misses a subtle change in how petitions are ranked or selected,
Oh,
it could actually mean a lost opportunity for their client to even be considered.
and that's just for the main lottery for the
Yeah.
just the standard H-1B visas, right?
Right.
Learning that there's actually some other categories that are affected by this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really important point to bring up because it's not just the standard H-1B cap that's affected.
Okay.
Even organizations that might have thought they were exempt from the lottery process,
Right.
what we call cap-exempt petitions,
Okay.
these are often for entities like universities or research institutions.
Yeah.
They have different kind of rules for hiring foreign workers.
Right.
Even they could see changes in how they receive their allocated slots.
Oh, wow.
So the impact can be much wider than just the typical, for-profit employer.
So for an attorney, this is, critical to stay on top of all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
But how do they actually communicate these changes to their clients?
Yeah.
Many of whom might not be following the day-to-day updates.
Right.
They're busy running their businesses.
That's a really important question. And the source really emphasizes that proactive client education is key here.
Okay.
Immigration firms need to use a variety of methods to keep their clients informed.
Okay.
Newsletters are kind of a tried and true approach.
Yeah.
But more interactive formats like webinars or even personalized briefings
Right.
can be really effective in making sure that employers understand how these shifts might impact their hiring strategies and timelines.
And I guess the core insight there for, anyone listening, whether you're a company or an individual,
Yeah,
is just that the rules of the game can change unexpectedly.
right.
And so you really got to stay connected to reliable sources of information.
Absolutely.
Now, beyond just getting into the lottery itself,
Yeah.
the H-1B process obviously involves, a mountain of paperwork.
It does.
And it sounds like those forms are also subject to these regular updates.
Oh, they are. They are. USCIS frequently revises its forms, and the Form I-129, which is the main petition for an H-1B worker,
Right.
is a perfect example.
So what are we talking about here? Are these major revisions or are they more subtle tweaks?
That's what's interesting is that they aren't always major revisions.
Okay.
Sometimes it's about requiring very specific additional documents,
Oh, wow.
or even just changing the way information needs to be formatted on the form.
So it's the kind of thing where you could be unknowingly, using like an outdated version,
Exactly.
even if it looks pretty similar to the new one.
Exactly, and that's why the source really recommends that everyone involved
Right.
make it a routine to check the official USCIS website for the latest versions before submitting anything.
Right.
And subscribing to their email alerts is a smart move too,
Okay.
so you get those direct notifications about form updates.
So for like larger organizations or, HR departments that are handling a lot of these petitions,
Yeah.
how do they make sure that their entire team is like on the same page and using those current forms and following the latest requirements?
This raises a really important point about internal processes.
Yeah.
The source highlights the necessity of regular internal training.
Yeah.
Even seemingly small errors, like using an old form or overlooking a newly required field, can lead to what's called a request for evidence,
Okay.
an RFE.
Right.
And you can think of that as like a hold button on your application.
Oh, wow.
It requires you to provide more information, and it can cause significant delays in the processing of that petition.
So it's like a huge setback.
It can be, yeah. So consistent training for paralegals, HR staff, anyone involved in preparing these forms
Right.
is really essential to minimize these administrative hurdles and keep things moving smoothly.
So we've talked about staying informed about the lottery changes
Right.
and also the form updates.
Yeah.
But the source also, digs into ways to make the whole H1B process
Yes.
more efficient.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of those strategies.
Yeah, given the increasing complexity and the sheer volume of H1B filings,
Right.
the source suggests that many law firms, and really anyone who's heavily involved in this area, are finding that relying solely on manual processes is just becoming overwhelming.
Right.
And this is where the idea of outsourcing certain tasks comes into play.
So outsourcing in like the context of immigration law,
Yeah.
what are we talking about here? Like what kinds of tasks are we talking about specifically for H1B cases?
Your source gives some great examples. One is the use of virtual immigration legal assistance.
Okay.
And these professionals can really take on a lot of that administrative workload.
Okay.
Things like entering data into case management systems, preparing initial drafts of forms based on information that's given to them,
Right.
even doing initial reviews of documents for completeness.
Okay.
And this allows the experienced attorneys to really focus their time and expertise
Right.
on the more strategic and complex aspects of the cases.
So it's like you're freeing them up from doing the stuff that's important, but doesn't necessarily require like their specific skills.
Exactly. And I think the takeaway for anyone listening,
Yeah.
whether you're a company or an individual, is that there are ways to streamline that often burdensome administrative side of H-1B applications,
Right.
freeing up valuable time and resources.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The source also mentioned offshore legal support teams.
Yes.
So how can those teams contribute to efficiency as well?
Offshore teams can be really helpful in ensuring compliance and managing deadlines.
Okay.
So they can review completed forms for accuracy and consistency before they're submitted.
Right.
They can track critical filing deadlines to prevent any missed opportunities,
Okay.
and even handle routine client communications,
Okay.
providing updates and answering basic questions without overloading the in-house team.
And it was something else that caught my eye in the source. It talked about 247 virtual receptionists,
Oh.
which I wouldn't immediately connect with like H1B processing.
Right.
But I guess it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah, if you consider it from a client service perspective,
Right.
the source makes a good point that during that peak H-1B filing season,
Yeah.
potential clients are actively seeking information and assistance,
Right.
and a missed phone call can actually mean a lost opportunity for a law firm.
For sure.
So a virtual receptionist ensures that all inquiries are captured promptly around the clock,
Right.
providing a better client experience and potentially leading to more business.
So it's not just about the efficiency internally. It's also about making sure that you're not missing out on any potential clients.
Exactly.
Now, beyond just like the human support side of things,
Yeah.
the source also really emphasizes the importance of digital tools.
Yes.
So what kind of technology are we talking about here in this space?
We're seeing a really significant increase in the use of AI-powered case management software.
Okay.
And these platforms can actually integrate directly with USCIS systems to pull relevant information, automate the tracking of important deadlines and case statuses, and even help generate pre-filled forms,
Oh, wow.
which can dramatically reduce the time spent on paperwork and minimize the chances of errors.
So I guess these tools are really becoming like essential for anyone who's serious about staying competitive in this field.
I think so, yeah.
The source mentioned a few specific platforms: DocketWise, LawLogix, and Tracker.
Yeah.
What makes these immigration-specific tools particularly beneficial?
Well, they're designed specifically with the complexities of immigration law in mind.
Okay.
So they understand the various forms, the different stages of each type of case,
Right.
and the specific requirements of USCIS at each step.
So they're not just like a generic project management tool that you could use for anything.
Exactly.
They're really tailored to the specific needs of immigration attorneys.
Right, and that built-in intelligence
Yeah.
can make managing multiple cases far more efficient and less prone to errors.
And then lastly, on the technology side, the source also highlighted the benefits of e-signature and secure file sharing.
Yes.
So how do those contribute to a more efficient H1B process?
These tools are all about streamlining those interactions with clients
Okay.
and managing the huge amount of documentation involved in these cases.
Right.
So e-signatures eliminate the need for physical documents,
Right.
allows clients to review and sign paperwork remotely,
Okay.
which saves significant time and hassle for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And secure cloud-based file sharing
Right.
makes it easier to exchange those sensitive documents with clients and within the legal team
Right.
while ensuring data privacy and security.
So we've talked a lot about efficiency,
We have.
which is clearly crucial, especially with, the unpredictable nature of the whole H1B lottery.
Yes,
And I guess that leads us to the idea of having like a proactive client strategy,
absolutely.
because it's not just about filing the paperwork, it's also about managing expectations from the outset.
Exactly. The H1B season inherently involves a significant degree of uncertainty
Yeah.
because of that lottery system.
Right.
So the source stresses the importance of being upfront and transparent with clients from the very beginning
Yeah.
about their chances of being selected.
Right.
Nobody appreciates surprises in this process.
No, especially when their career or their ability to hire someone depends on it.
Exactly.
So if the H1B is not, a guarantee,
Yeah.
what are some other things that should be part of that initial conversation with clients?
It's essential to discuss alternative visa options if the H1B pathway doesn't work out.
Okay.
The source mentions a few examples like the O1 visa for individuals with extraordinary ability or achievement,
Right.
the TN visa for certain Canadian and Mexican professionals,
Okay.
and the L1 visa for intra-company transferees.
Okay. So having those backup plans in place can really help manage those expectations.
It can give clients a sense of security and alternative routes forward,
Right.
even if that H1B petition isn't successful.
The source also touched on the value of pre-screening potential employers and beneficiaries.
Yes.
So what's the advantage of doing that before even entering the lottery?
Pre-screening is all about maximizing the chances of success.
Okay.
So by carefully evaluating the eligibility of both the sponsoring company and the potential employee before you even submit that lottery registration,
Right.
you can identify any potential weaknesses or red flags early on
Okay.
and address them proactively.
So you're basically putting forward the strongest possible case from the start.
Exactly.
Okay. So to kind of sum up everything we've talked about today,
Yeah.
successfully navigating the current H1B landscape requires staying constantly informed
Absolutely.
about changes to the lottery and the forms.
Yep.
It also involves adopting strategies to boost efficiency, like we talked about outsourcing,
Right.
utilizing digital tools,
Yes.
and then taking a proactive approach to managing client expectations and exploring those alternative visa options.
That's a really accurate and concise overview. And what's really interesting is how interconnected all these elements are.
Yeah.
Staying informed enables more efficient processes, which in turn supports a more proactive and transparent client strategy.
Totally. And, while we were focusing on material aimed at immigration attorneys today,
Right.
it's clear that understanding these changes and strategies offers valuable context for anyone who's involved in the H-1B process,
Absolutely.
regardless of their specific role.
And I think if we consider the broader implications with the increasing complexity of immigration regulations and procedures
Yep.
really highlights the need for adaptability and a commitment to continuous learning in this field.
Totally. So as we wrap up, here's a final thought for everyone listening.
Good.
Considering how complex these immigration processes are becoming,
Right.
what other areas beyond just H-1B visas might benefit from similar strategies of staying informed, embracing efficiency tools, and proactively managing expectations?
That's a really thought-provoking question.
I hope so.
And it really underscores the wider relevance of these themes we've been talking about today.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who's involved in immigration law and wants to learn more about some of the outsourcing solutions that we talked about today,
Yeah.
the source that we were using actually provided some contact information.
Great.
You can reach out via email at info@imisupport.com.
Okay.
or by phone at 888-884-2161.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me for this deep dive. I think this was really informative.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening, we'll catch you next time.
See you later.